What's up guys, Sketchy here coming at you with the 21st episode of Sketchy Unscripted and part 7 of the Road to the Siege miniseries. Part 3 came out this week, so I gotta do what I gotta do. One thing I did like, one thing I did not like, and one thing I'm curious about. The one thing I did like about this issue, Cadence. Cadence showed up and showed out. I loved her characterization here. She finally has been given something to do, and my only gripe with this is that we should have gotten this in part 2 at the very latest, because I feel like this arc spent too much time doing setup with parts 1 and 2, and I think that's the major fault of this arc is the setup, all of the setup. That's the major problem with this arc. But back to Cadence, it's great seeing her doing what she needs to do in order to defend her empire. And it shows that she has a lot of potential if the show writers and the comic writers are willing to give more attention to her outside of her being pregnant. The most interesting thing about Cadence in this issue to me is when she finally used dark magic, because apparently you need to have rage in your heart in order to harness it, even if you hide that rage well. Twilight was able to use it, but she would get a headache afterwards, and according to Radiant Hope, that happens when you only have anger and not rage. And when Cadence used dark magic, she didn't get a headache. So I have a feeling that that's gonna play a part in part 4. As for the one thing I did not like, I didn't like the whole "we believe in you, Twilight" excuse for how Twilight got over Sombra's dark crystals that sealed her magic away. I mean, the elements of harmony and rainbow power were already one thing, but at least the elements of harmony had lore to them, and at least rainbow power had a season-long build-up. This was just a straight ass pull. And yeah, Twilight does end up playing an important part in the ending of part 3 later on, but like, if that's the case, then I feel a different chain of events should have happened so that Twilight was incapacitated, but still able to get to Cadence without having to do that stupid "we believe in you, Twilight" thing. Finally, the one thing that I'm curious about, and that is Chrysalis. Now that she's learned the truth about what Radiant Hope and Sombra's end goal is, and because that creates a conflict of interest between Sombra and Chrysalis, Chrysalis decides, no, I don't want any part of this, I'm out. However, with the way she left, I can't help but think that she is going to come back in the end, because now Sombra has released the Umbrum, and he has numbers on his side now. So it's definitely possible that Chrysalis will come back to form a reluctant alliance with the heroes just this one time in order to fight off the Umbrum. And if that is what's going to happen, I'm looking forward to it. Overall, I feel that this issue was a major improvement over parts 1 and 2. However, part of me feels as though it might be a little too late. The foundation that the story is built upon, from the B villains being involved to the main 6 being here for no reason, I feel as though that makes a real shaky foundation for this story to stand on. And to add on to that, I feel that they took too much time setting up the story. Like 2 whole parts where part 2 was just a rehash of part 1 for the most part. I don't think that was really necessary. And while part 3 was, again, a major improvement, if part 4 ends up being good as well, I don't think this comic will be any more than a decent story arc. And I've been thinking about this, and I've actually deleted my last recording of this episode and decided to re-record it with new thoughts on how the arc is doing. So right now, the best I can hope for is that part 4 is good, and we'll end up with an arc that is half and half, which is still a lot better than all the other arcs we've gotten in 2015, and at least I can reread a half and half story rather than skipping an arc that's almost entirely bleh. So those are my first impressions on Siege of the Crystal Empire Part 3, as well as some afterthoughts on how the entire arc is doing as a whole. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this issue, one thing you did like, one thing you didn't like, and one thing you're curious about. And until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.